My favorite games growing up were turn-based RPGs such as Pokémon Emerald, Chrono Trigger, and Dragon Quest VIII. Now, many years later, having obtained a degree in computer science and working as a data scientist specialized in NLP, I want to find out whether I can create a compelling text-based RPG where instead of selecting between multiple predefined commands, users can actually freely type in their actions and an LLM will determine the consequences. In my previous video, I showed you a prototype of this battle system, which allowed you to play as a warrior fighting against an ancient dragon. Both characters had classic RPG attributes such as HP, attack and defense, but instead of a stamina or mana stat, I added a focus stat, which determined the maximum length of your inputs. While you could freely choose the actions of the warrior, the actions of the dragon were determined by prompting an LLM. The damage calculation also happened by using a hybrid formula, which contained a purely stat-based component, which I ripped straight from Dragon Quest, and an AI component, which was done by having an LLM judge the feasibility and potential damage of the action of the user. And to get accurate judgments of this feasibility and potential damage, I gave the LLM both the proposed action of the user as well as descriptions of both characters and the previous actions in the current battle. Although the game was very simple and consisted of only a single battle, I still found it very interesting to play with, and the reactions on the video were also positive. That's why I decided to spend the last few weeks working out the game in more detail, and in this video I will show you my progress. As I had never developed a game before and was not using a game engine, the actual code of the prototype was a bit of a Frankenstein held together by duct tape, so the first thing I did was research some game design patterns to find out how I should organize my code base in a way that's actually maintainable and extendable. After some discussions with my buddy DeepSeek R1 about my codebase, as using Google feels like getting sent back to the Stone Age, I started implementing a basic game loop which consists of separate input fetching, updating and rendering steps. I also divided my game up into multiple scenes, with each scene then having multiple stages throughout which transitions were done. After cleaning up my codebase, I wanted to come up with an engaging gameplay loop, because a single predefined battle like in the prototype would get very boring very fast. As a solo developer and with LLMs being pretty expensive, I wanted something relatively simple and short. Lately, I've also been playing a lot of roguelikes such as Bloodthrow and Vampire Survivors, which have permadeath, interesting items, and despite depending on player skill, runs are never endless, because after a while the challenge you're up against simply outscales you. I decided to take inspiration from those games as well as from the absolute classic Swords and Sandals, which if you've never played this in your youth, you were simply missing out. So for my game, I decided to focus on one-on-one battles against increasingly difficult enemies, with progression systems to promote different playstyles and permadeath to add to the tension. I made every run start by letting you choose a name and class for your character. You can either play as a gym bro, which is focused on offense and starts with a baseball bat, which increases his or her attack. You can also play as a Doomsday Prepper, which is focused on survival and has a turtle shell as a starting item to increase its defense. Or the Awkward Poet class, which starts with a chewed up pen to give him some more focus, which allows you to type in longer input commands. And the Poet class is also able to deal damage through his imaginations, so in a sense it's similar to a mage class in more classic RPGs. After creating your character, you go to the resting hub, which shows you how many battles you have won in your current run and also allows you to inspect your character or start the next battle. For the battles, I've predefined some varied and absurd characters. I like the enemies from RPGs such as Earthbound, so I created enemies like a mouse, a malcop, and even things like a bus, which is very funny to see what moves the AI actually comes up with for such characters. The damage calculation happens the same as before, with both a stat-based component as well as the judgment of the LLM. I tweaked the prompt a bit to give lower potential damage if you type in fake or repeated commands. You can also use items in battle, only the ones that you have in your inventory though. So for example, when I choose a gym bro and which has a baseball bat as a starting item and I type in swing sword, it will deal 0 damage as it's rated infeasible by the LLM. The poet class is a bit wilder though, as you can do stuff like summoning spirits, as he's able to deal damage through the sheer power of his imagination. After each battle you win, you return to the resting hub, and in your next battle you will then face an increasingly stronger opponent, which I do by applying some mathematics on the level scaling of the enemies. Not only the opponents get stronger, but also your character does, as after each battle you can either level up your stats or you can get an item drop where you can choose between one of 3 randomly drawn items. While leveling just makes you stronger through stat increases, I'm trying to use the items to force you into specific playstyles. For example, I currently have an item called Adrenaline Pump that gives increased damage when you input your action really fast, which goes well with low focus builds. I also have an item called a Poetry Bug, which gives you increased damage per word you never used in battle before, which then goes well with builds that have a lot of focus. Besides just offering bonuses, through the items themselves can also be used in battle. So for example, the laser pistol does not only give you increased attack, but the LLM will probably also judge that dealing damage with a laser, trying to deal damage with a laser pistol should have a high potential damage. When you die, your run ends, so you will have to start all over again, so the goal of the game is simply to get a high score in the amount of battles you win before dying. So in short, the game has changed a lot, but it's still in the very early phases. For example, the combat system is at the moment very unbalanced, and investing in the attack stat is simply much stronger than investing in defense, which also makes gym bro playthroughs a lot easier. I also find getting the enemy scaling right a challenge to make it not too hard but also not too easy. I also currently don't have many items implemented yet, and balancing them will also be pretty hard. I have some fun ideas though, such as items which boost your attack if your input command contains certain keywords, or for example contains a rhyme, or maybe a defensive item which could reduce potential damage from verbose enemy attacks, or things like the more you use a certain word throughout the game, the stronger it becomes. There are so many crazy ideas you can implement, and I'm looking forward to trying them out. The enemies are also currently all predefined, and I'm looking to change that so that they are also AI generated and each playthrough would be different. I currently also don't use a game engine yet, so the game is currently only playable through your terminal with very limited graphics. Another issue or thing to work on is that LLMs are still currently very expensive. I am currently using Grok, which offers free tokens, but if I want to make this game widely available, I will have to implement some sort of monetization strategy. For example, in the form of buying credits for a playthrough, as each playthrough currently costs me 15 cents. So at the moment I'm thinking of making the game playable on the web and having users buy tokens similar like in an arcade, but if someone has a better idea, be sure to let me know. So still a lot of work yet to do, but the potential seems immense. If you're interested to play the current version, check out the GitHub repo in the description. The only thing you need is a Python interpreter and a Grok API key, which you can get for free on their website and gives you free Llama 3 tokens, so you don't have to pay anything to play the game. Definitely let me know what you think about it and what you want to see added. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope I see you guys in the next one.